I had
So it looks,
someone ask about rebuilding using the wellness wheel. Um,
hmm
so actually, I'd love to talk about this because in case your followers don't know about it, so the wellness wheel was the main tool. I don't know if you struggled with this a lot, Heather, but like it was really hard for me to get out of the ruminating cycle. Like that was probably like the part of this that lasted the longest for me because it felt very addictive. Like that's the best way that I can describe it. Is it truly felt like an addiction. Um, so I kind of approached trying to get out of that like an addiction. And the tool that I used to do that was the self care wellness wheel. So essentially, the wellness wheel, it has like 6 different areas of self care that you get to choose because we all have like different things that fill our cup and feed into us, and we have different values. So you choose the areas of self care that you want to focus on, and it helps reshift your focus. And
sorry,
so you're fine.
Ring-
It helps like
Ringo.
reshift your focus on and redefine what self care is because society kind of puts this like stigma on self care that it's like spa days and massages and all this stuff that's like expensive or can take a lot of time, and not there's anything wrong with any of that. But sometimes self care is just simple as like playing a board game with your kids, or just sitting down for 30 minutes and just being present and meditate and be in your thoughts. And if you are into bubble baths, like that could be it. So it's just these little things where you can give yourself as much credit as possible, and you just reevaluate your day, see how you took care of yourself that day, and then overall see how you took care of yourself for the week as a whole. So that way you're getting this balanced practice of self care. And
I love that.
so that was the tool that helped me the most. There is a journal for it that I created, and the link for that is on my link tree in my bio. It's like either the second or the third, and it's either you can either buy like the paper copy, which I liked the paper one because you can write in it and stuff, and you can either get that through Amazon or there's a PDF version that's linked too.
And
Um,
this is yours, right? You
yeah, this
created
one's the one
this.
that I created. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my link tree in order. It's just that it's connected in a few places, and I've got to figure it out. But
Yeah.
I want to add everybody's books into my link tree
Yeah.
as a resource and put them on my website as well.
Yeah, I want to do the same thing because right now, like my link tree, it's getting kind of long, and so I want to
Yeah.
reorganize it to where it's like, it's like here's like books, here's like courses, here's this, whatever, and they go to
hmm
separate things. But I'm cheap and I don't want to pay for the upgrade. I know it's only
Yeah,
$10 a month, but I'm like, I don't want to.
Green Hair Mama says self-care can be as simple as eating a good meal. And I honestly, it's so important. Lee, oh, the lead mod is on my side, by the way. Lee, the lead mod is over here. So,
Oh, okay.
hmm. But
That's
I
true.
was just telling one of my clients, so she left a toxic workplace. It was so bad that she couldn't even give 2 weeks, and she doesn't have another opportunity at the moment. She just hired me. She's going to be fine for a few months, but she was so relieved, right? Like to leave, like this sense of relief, which is exactly what happens. But I told her, we can make a plan next week to do your personal brand and do your LinkedIn and do your resume, get started on that stuff. But I want you to be aware that once you leave a toxic situation, whether it's workplace or a relationship, family, whatever it is, you might crash. You might all of a sudden crash out, right? And just be really, really tired. And even though you made the best decision for you and your mental health, the absence of the consistent manipulation and abuse, coupled with the ruminating thoughts, right? Because
Mhm.
that's when they start to come in. And if you never expressed your anger or you didn't feel like you could, speak up for yourself during that time, those two things I think can cause just a crashing of your system because you're not cortisol dumping as much, but it's not resolved yet.
Yeah.
And I told her, your self care is going to need to look like knowing your body and when you need to rest and resting. And if that means canceling our sessions and rescheduling them for the following week, then that is exactly what we need to do.
Hmm.
Because I don't know about you, but when you're talking about the ruminating, I remember all of a sudden all this stuff started coming out, and I would literally, and I was so happy to get out. Like I was dancing all around my house. But I started like saying the stuff that I wanted to say out loud that I never said.
Oh yeah, I
And
did that a lot.
did you do that too?
Hmm. Yeah, I had a lot of really intense arguments with myself in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. Which I mean, in my opinion, it's good. It's good to get
Yeah, oh
that
yeah,
out,
for sure. Yeah,
but it's tiring and it's also, you don't want to get stuck there,
right.
right?
Oh
Uh-oh,
yeah.
something in his eye.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
just an eyelash fell on my eye. Okay, I think we're
Hey,
good.
Cynthia. Oh, Cynthia's saying that she also did the arguments in the mirror. She didn't, it looks like she's like, didn't realize that a lot of people do that.
I think it's because like the more people I talk to, the more people have done that, and I think it's because like really deep down we know it's pointless to say this stuff to them, but we just have to like get it out. And I think it's almost like a verbal version of that therapy technique of writing a letter to the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is very therapeutic, and I think that you just kind of do. You just really it needs to be said just to like get it out, or else like what you were saying, like we just keep kind of holding on to and it's not processed. There is like healing. It's to just like get it out of your system. Like and I
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I did it a lot.
Did you get really tired after, because I think we both discarded, right? Did you get really
Yeah, I
tired
did.
after that?
I
Yeah.
discarded and I yes I did, but I kind of swung on the other end of the spectrum where I kept myself like so distracted because I was such a hot mess that like I just like I couldn't deal with all of it. And it's like you said, I would get to the point where I was like starting to get okay, and then I would find something else out. And then it was like 10 more questions came out from like this one new piece of information. And then, but I distracted myself so much to the point where I like completely just absolutely like crashed, like physically, mentally. I almost lost my job. Like it was just like I hit this brick wall. And that
Mm-hmm.
was probably about 2 or 3 months right after the breakup. Um, and then it was kind of like, okay, maybe we need to reevaluate how we're handling this and just like have some time. Cause I hated being home alone because it just like I
Mm.
would walk in and I just would be replaying the whole relationship in that house again. And, it was just like, and then I found out about like the cheating was going on in the house. So it was like, I would look at my couch and I would envision that. I would look at the bed and I would envision that happening. And it was just, I hated being home.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kept myself, and so I just had to like mentally like go back in. I remember going back into the house one day and just like spiritually and mentally like reclaiming my home. It's like, you know what? He is gone and everything that he did is gone. This place is mine. I rearranged the furniture in the living room. I like took everything off. I didn't buy any new stuff, but I just took everything off the wall and put it all in a different spot. Like I just kind of like just reclaimed the house, and that was actually really, really a cool thing that I did.
That is a cool thing. I don't know if anybody else has done that, but if you don't have the opportunity or you make the choice not to um, buy all new stuff and all that,
Yeah.
like I'm a little woo, so I also believe in like saging and
Yeah.
that type of thing. But if you move things in your house to different places, it's amazing,
Yeah. It
the
changes the.
environment, the change in the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like it does, it breaks the associations that you have with the past. And like right now I haven't been doing as many videos. Like my house is a freaking disaster right now. I don't know if you guys can see, but like I've been having my house painted.
Oh yeah.
And I hired a woman to do it because I always try to like support small businesses in my area, and I suck at painting. It will be all over me, my hair, my clothes, everywhere, no matter how hard I try. But I love my house that I moved into, but I had it with a lease with an option, and I just bought it like 3 months ago. And I'm like, it's time for this to be like my colors.
Yeah.
And the difference I'm already like seeing in the just how clean it looks and how
Mm-hmm.
less intense it is just like it's amazing because I really do believe that however you do it, your environment does have a big impact on you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I was in a lease home also, and at the time, like I was applying for grad school, I didn't know if I had gotten in yet, and so I still had, I think I had like 5 months left in my lease, And so it was like, well, I can't really go anywhere, at least for 5 more months. So what can I do? And again, because I was only gonna be there for 5 more months, I didn't want to go and spend the money to like get new stuff for it. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do? And so that's when I just was like, well, let's just redo it. Let's just everything I already have. Let's just redo it. Let's just put it in a different spot. So it was kind of fun. Like it kind of helped create like a little bit of a creative side.
Cynthia saying she did the exact same thing.
Really? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just was. I recommend it to a couple of my clients in our one-on-one calls because it also can kind of help break a pattern too. Because like if you
Mm-hmm.
have this ruminating pattern where you come in and you sit on the bed or you sit on the couch and you start to want to stalk their social media or all this kind of stuff and you're like consistently in the same pattern, like sometimes just shifting the furniture around and just seeing things in a different place, it can automatically kind of help change some patterns for sure.
Yeah, you're so right about that. I love it. I love it. What color? Well, I'm gonna keep this purple lavender. I didn't think I would end up liking it, and as it turns out, like the very few things that I did bring, like the artwork, that was mine, ended up having the same lavender color in it, which I thought was
Well,
interesting.
that's perfect.
Um, yeah, I was like, wait a second, maybe this room is supposed to be this color, but she just redid the ceiling. What am I doing? I'm doing like a kind of a blue, really light blue gray in my kitchen because it had like these. If y'all have seen my videos in the past where I do them in my kitchen, like almost like this burgundy red, which I love red as an accent color, but like it's a small
Yeah.
kitchen and then it had like the old, I don't know, cabinets from like the 2010s that were like that light oak. So now it looks beautiful, and the cabinets will be done tomorrow where they're now white. So I
Ooh,
love that.
I love
And
that.
I'm doing just a basic neutral, really, really, really light, very light beige in the hallway, my office, and my bedroom because I have a lot of colorful things,
Yeah.
like a blue chair and a red chair and stuff like that. And then upstairs is like a an icy an icy frosty gray and white.
Mm,
And then I have furniture planned, and of course there's color in there. So I'm just excited about just it just looks so nice and fresh now.
yeah. Yeah.
At
I'm
least
I'm kind
at
of like
least
that too. I like the lighter colors. It makes the room feel bigger too.
yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to see. People are talking to each other, which is fantastic. Oh, you have the blue gray kitchen cabinets. Those are really nice too. Are your walls white?
Mine?
No, sorry,
Oh, okay.
Cynthia. I'm trying to. But like as far as the ruminating and like somebody said that they would walk around the neighborhood talking out loud. I mean,
Hmm.
do it. Like say the
Yeah.
stuff that needed to be said. I think
Yeah.
it's actually good practice for establishing boundaries in the future, um, because we have to learn how to use our voices.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And I remember I posted a video about this not long ago too, but the other thing that I did, and obviously this is something to do later, like when you're actually like more ready to get back into the dating scene again, is I made a very specific list of like, and it was a two-part list. Like one was non-negotiables, like what was non-negotiable of what I wanted out of a partner, and then another one was like preferences, where it's like I prefer this, but I can live without it. And that was actually the first time that I had ever really made a list of what I actually specifically wanted. And that, in another way, it's almost kind of like putting a boundary onto yourself too, because you're like, no, these are the standards that I know I want of non-negotiables versus preferences, and really being honest with yourself about the difference between the two of those. And that was really kind of a cool thing too, because it just kind of got me away from thinking of what I did have and how bad that was. And it's like, I mean, in a way, it was a form of manifestation because I'm like, okay, if I could create like, someone with the stuff that I'm looking for, what would that look like? And it was pretty cool actually. So then when I'm starting to date again, I just pull out that list and I'm like, what am I seeing on here, in comparison? So I think that's really important too after this. So it helps you not fall back into that again.
I have a standards list too, and I've had my clients do this for relationships in the future as well as workplaces. Like what is unacceptable to me and what is
Mhm.
it that is very important to me that I'm seeking. You know, you did preferences, same concept. Um, don't share that don't share that
No,
with the person you're dating,
I did not
at
share
least
it.
not until way down the line. As it turns out, so I kind of said this in Sarah Jessica's, but I'm engaged, you guys. I'm engaged. We
Yay!
just haven't put it on to Facebook yet. Don't anybody say anything on Facebook because he wants to take pictures of the rings and stuff, and he was exposed to COVID, so we haven't had time. But like, I didn't show. In fact, I don't think Greg's actually seen the list yet. I've told him some things on
Oh,
it,
really?
but I had like 40 things, empathy, compassion, effective communicator, good sense of humor, blah, blah, like all that kind of stuff. Authenticity. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. But he meets and I'm serious, every single thing I put on there, he meets.
Yeah.
And I know that because that's who he is. And he's shown
Hmm.
this to me over the last over a year and a half consistently.
Yeah.
So I think the list is super important. And I think it's not for them, it's for us.
It is for you. Yeah. I mean, I still have never showed it to my current partner um, because it's also like a protective thing too, because you don't want people mirroring what you're looking for just so they can keep you. It's like no,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that this is who they actually are. Ooh, thank you for the crown. I haven't seen that one before. Um, but in a way, it's like, and Jessica said this on my life. She was like, if I listened to a list like that, he would have never gotten near me to gain control in the first place. And I think that's why it's important to make this kind of a list. Is
Mm-hmm.
it's a preventative measure, but the important thing is you can make a list all day long, but if you don't hold yourself to that list, like if you don't make the standards list and keep it, then it's just an exercise that was just for funsies. Like you have to really
Mm-hmm.
really be honest with yourself and really hold yourself to it, which I think is why it's really important to distinguish between your non-negotiables and your preferences. Because like
Mm-hmm.
for example, I would have preferred like I preferred somebody that was had that was like had a close relationship with their family, but I can live without it because in my first marriage they were very close to their family, but their family was not very nice to me, and so it's like that doesn't always necessarily mean that it's going to be a good thing. And um, I have a great family, so I'm not needing something from someone else's family that I'm not already getting. So if they
Mm-hmm.
have it, great. If they don't, I can live without that. Quite frankly, it's less Christmas gifts for me to have to buy, so that's fine.
Right.
So,
Right.
but there's a big difference between, but like a non-negotiable for me was, emotional support and actually listening to me when I talk. That's a
Mm-hmm.
non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm. So Drew, are you friends with Perspective Drew?
I don't think so.
He's great. He's a great guy. He was saying, but wait, those things should just be like basically minimum expectations. And I agree with you. I really
Agreed.
do. But when you're coming out of, and in particular, if you were raised by narcissistic and abusive parents, those things don't seem like
Basic.
normal yet. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like our baseline for abuse is all the way up here, right? So like
Hmm.
I wanted, well, it is. And so
Hmm.
for me, and for what I'm telling my clients, I want the list to reflect what your expectations are. And if they're the basic expectations, that is the place where we need to start. We need to start here and not here. Like
Yeah.
allowing, does that make sense? I don't
Well,
know.
and
Not a,
sometimes like you lose sight of what the basics are because
yeah.
like you are so trained to believe one thing and to accept a different version of basic from people. I mean, my ex,
Mm-hmm.
and he took advantage of the fact that I was newly out, and so I just had a lot of ignorance when it came to like the gay community and stuff. And there was a lot of things like he told me that were normal, like how many of his exes he talked to and like all this kind of stuff. And I was like, is this normal in the gay community? He's like, oh yeah, it's totally normal. And like once I started dating other people, I was like, oh, this shit ain't normal. But I didn't know that until I started dating other people too, like afterwards. And I was looking back on certain things, and I'm like, God bless, like he really took advantage of like just my naiveness to how like
Mm-hmm.
my own community worked, you know, because I know like there are things that are a little bit different in the gay community than the straight community, but it's not that different when it comes to dating. And he had me full on convinced it was. So you kind of have to almost like, you know, retrain yourself with the foundations because you lost them for a while. It was rock.
Well, I like the idea of what if it goes not non-negotiable, like things you absolutely will not tolerate, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are your minimum, let's just say minimum expectations,
Right.
right? Minimum standards, and then you have your preferences.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think so. And I think you just have to, and you know, I a lot of what I did was I just honestly looked back on the relationship and was like, what did I not get from this person? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's kind of what was my starting baseline, you know, and then you can kind of work your way up from there. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
So they're asking me to hold my ring up again. Is that okay?
Of course.
So I don't know how
You did great.
it's a morganite. And if you look up the meaning for morganite, like I wanted a black diamond because I wanted like the opposite of what I've had in the past. But I kept being drawn to this stone, and when you look it up, it's all about healthy love and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, that's the stone. So thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you can see it well, but rock that shit.
That's so
Oh,
great.
that's so funny that we both wanted the same thing. If I ever get a second, like a type of ring, you know, like another one, I would be a black diamond too. But lab created because I don't believe in the diamond industry. Oh, Lisa's over here too. We got our friends here.
Sorry, I'm responding to some comments really fast.
It's a rose gold.
I love rose gold.
Me too. Me and Cynthia and Bree and Kelly have a necklace that's rose gold heart that we all have that. Okay. Oh, so my eyeliner it's black eyeliner, but it's blue mascara. I think it's just CoverGirl. Thank you. Yeah, but I like the idea of preferences because as an example, like if we were gonna date, me and you said you wanted somebody with a close family, and I divorced my family 20 years ago because they're so abusive.
Right.
That's a preference, right? That's
That's a
that's
preference.
not
Yeah.
that's not a relationship like
Right.
killer or whatever. That's just, oh
No,
well,
'cause I
that's
mean, even with like my current partner, he was very close to his family growing up. And I mean, he's still close to some of them, but he doesn't actively see them very much, you know. And part of that's just how life goes. Part of it's because certain things have happened over the past 5 to 6 years. So it's like, and I think if something like that happens, because see, this is where also like being in effective communication is important because really, like, you know, because my ex, my narcissistic ex, essentially said he doesn't talk to his family because they were the problem. But then you continue to listen to all these other stories, and everybody else was the problem. And
mm-hmm.
there's responsibility taken on his end. You know, like with my current partner, he's talked about some things that have happened with his family, but the difference was he said, this is what they did, but I could have done this part better. And there was accountability
Accountability.
being found
Mm-hmm.
and listening to stuff like that. Because if everybody else is always a problem, there's only one common denominator and all of that, and it's them, you know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So sorry, the gals are like Rose over here too, and they're laughing because of, did you see that video I did with that troll who was like saying all this stupid stuff, and then he was like, "And blue mascara, or blue eyeliner? Are you
Oh, I
kidding
did see
me?"
that one.
And I did the "Hey little guy," so they're all over here saying, "Hey little guy." So I remember I did a video on this months ago, but I remember the narcissist this one time, and he was like, "My ex-wife hates me. My kids hate me. I don't have any friends. Everybody hates me, and it's all your fault." And I was like, "Well, who's the common denominator, right? So like a day or two later or whatever, he was like, you know who the common denominator is between my ex-wife and my kids and my friends? You know who it is, Heather? It's you. And I was like, that's an interesting perspective. You are
Hmm.
welcome to your own reality.
Absolutely. You
Like,
sure are. Because Lord knows they're going to live in it anyways. Ugh, God. It's so funny. Yep.
bye, Diva. Nice to have you here. Yeah, but like how do you and so the one that I discarded is the same age as me. How do you get to 51 years old and not realize, and especially since from what I understand, and I tried not to know about it, but you know how some people times people will just tell you stuff. The next supply after me also discarded him within 6 months. How do you get to this place in your life when you are at you're straight up middle aged and not put the connections together?
I said the same thing about mine. I mean, granted, he was 27 when we met, and it was, yes, people tell you things that you don't necessarily want to know, but I had found out that his next one actually caught on much quicker than me, Duncan,
Mm-hmm.
within like a month. And it was, yeah, I mean, I remember just like the longest friendship that he had, like active friendship, was 5 years, and I'm just like, and I, not that I necessarily hang out with him on a day to day basis, but like I still have people from well, actually, there's one friend that I've literally had since I was 6 months old, and we talk pretty frequently. And it's like, how can you not maintain a friendship for longer than 5 years? And that's only one of them. And there was like, I don't know if you or have heard of other this too, but like he would talk about certain people like they were like his best friend and act like they've known each other for this like long period of time. And then I found out like they've only been friends for like 5 months. And I remember even saying like, you talk about them like you've known them for years. And he was like, oh, well, it just feels that way. But it was like all of his friends were like that except for one where it was like literally less than 2 years or a year even. It was
That is
crazy.
so that is so funny that you bring that up because I had a very toxic boss. In fact, I don't know if any of you followed Dan from HR, but he and I are going to end up doing a series together because most of the work I do is centered around career transition and toxic workplace exit strategies and abuse recovery, that kind of thing. But you just reminded me, so that I had this toxic boss, and she would say stuff to me. I don't know if she's like malignant BPD or if it's just straight up NPD, but she would say stuff to me like, well, my friend is going to be in your classroom today when you do your training. And I'd be like, okay, and she'd be like, so just so you know, my friend is going to be in your class. And I'm like, yes, you just said
Ew.
that. And, and like somehow I have to provide a better quality than I already did. Like my classes were booked out for months.
Yeah.
And so I would say to the person, oh, yeah, so and so just told me that you would be in here. She said you guys are really good friends. And this happened multiple times. I swear to God, half the time they were like, I don't know her. Like, my friend knows her. Or like,
Oh my
I'm not
God.
friends with her. I bumped into her at a grocery store and she told me to come to your class. It's like wild. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They are,
That is
it's very
crazy.
strange with the friend thing. Since Cynthia's going to go hang out on your side. But I know that the sociopath that I was with, he had a friend from childhood. Like they literally were born on the same day. But, and it was his best friend. And I think I saw this guy 5 times in 10 years. And so did he. They just live like 20 minutes away, 15 minutes away. And the other friends that he had weren't like, he was in a band with them. But I noticed that nobody invited him to anything. And I started to realize like I think they tolerate him. Like even though he put on the charm and all that stuff, again, by the time you've known somebody several years and the same pattern keeps repeating with
Yeah.
them, people start catching on. I imagine. Now I don't know a thing about him. I have it's been over 2 years, but like so I blocked him on everything. It took me forever to block on Google. That was driving me insane, the Gmail. But like it's no wonder why they get so jealous of our friends and
Yeah.
our friendships. and the way that people respond to us and you know, because it used to be like, I love how people just love being around you, to all you want is attention. You just
Mhm.
go places to seek attention. You only do the
You know
work
what
you
that
do
is?
so
That's
that,
twisting,
mm-hmm.
it's twisting something that makes you you, that could make you confident, and now we're going to make it a crutch, or now we're going to make it, something that could make you narcissistic. It's like they take these things that are like core things to us that make you an attractive human, not just like physically, but, spiritually. And it's a weakness now, or it's an inconvenience for them. And because then you start believing all these lies about yourself. It's so deceptive.
Well, everything that they loved about you in the beginning is what they turn around and use to abuse you, right? Once they've
Mm-hmm.
hooked you. Yeah. So Ro is saying that the ex's groomsmen were all acquaintances.
Yeah, she's
One was
commented
a
that on mine too. That's crazy.
one was a mortgage banker and one was some guy from work. Yeah, I know.
It's insane. Well, and part of the reason why my ex doesn't really have any lifelong friends is because, like, again, I've not kept up with him, but I know up until me, like, between his ex-husband and myself, which that was about a 2.5 year time period, he didn't stay in the same spot for more than 6 months. And that
Mm.
that was one of the red flags that I had noticed that I ignored, because he always had a good excuse about each and every one of them. Um, but that was something that I thought was weird. And I know the only thing that I know is that within the first year of us breaking up, he had moved 3 times. That was the just from updates that I had gotten. So I mean, yeah, it's hard to actually maintain. But because he does that, this is what's twisted about it. But because he does that, the ones that didn't have time to catch on to him, like they're still friends with him. So
Mm-hmm.
like all he has to do, and I think part of this is strategic, because when he started to demonize me, he went to all these people that didn't really know me and honestly don't really know him that well. They're just social media friends, and got all of them on his side, and played this whole victim thing. And there was one person that he had done this with, I guess, a couple of times. And he actually ended up messaging me and just being like, yeah, there's just seems like drama follows him a lot. And I'm like, yeah, there's reasons, so like, so like, he's like, I'm starting to like read between the lines, and I'm just really sorry for like, whatever you went through. And I just thought that was really sweet. But it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's almost like a strategy. It's like, oh, it's been 6 months, like people might start catching on,
Yeah.
and then let's move.
Yeah. So sorry. I want to tell you, Ro is so funny. She's saying his bachelor party was awkward AF. Yeah. And
Imagine like having to go around the room and saying great things about him, and they're like, he seems great for the 2 weeks I've known him.
way back 10 days ago when we met in the
Yeah.
bathroom at work. you know.
I heard that one time in the office he loaned me his pen. He seems like a good guy.
So funny. So, and Angelette is saying that they hate you for everything they are not, and that is true. That's why they wanted you. They want people that are bright lights. They want people that are warm, caring, compassionate, empathetic, funny, authentic
Yep.
people. They want that. It makes them look good to get you.
Yeah.
And then the minute that they get you, the mask slipped. I mean, looking back, I wouldn't have gone on probably a third date with this guy. I would have caught on, but I wasn't there yet. I
You weren't there
hadn't
yet. Yeah.
hadn't done the work yet. I didn't know. But like just the way that they start to devalue you. Like I've seen videos on this and I know it's happened. It happened to me within the first week. But the minute that they either get you to live with them or marry you, that's it.
Yep.
It just goes whew.
Yep. That's exactly what happened to me. And it's funny, just to kind of reiterate the thing that a lot of us have talked about before too, how like when they talk about their exes, that's the closest thing to confession that they get. Because
Mm-hmm.
he told me that his ex-husband was like very abusive towards him, and I remember asking him, I was like, when did that, just trying to learn his story, I had asked like, did you ever see signs of that, like when did that start? And he was like, when we got married, he flipped a switch and became a totally different person. So he and I never got married, but we did live together, and that's essentially, I mean, we moved we moved in together in September. He started cheating on me by December, and we were broken up by May. Like it was very fast downhill after that. And it was like, so again, like when I'm finding out all this stuff, it's like I struggled with that temptation of reaching out to his ex-husband because I'm like, what really happened? But I ended up
Mm-hmm.
not, because I think his ex-husband was probably just as narcissistic as him from what other
Mm-hmm.
people have said. But I was just like, and then I saw, and this was again before I learned about narcissism, and I saw someone post a video about that, about like their stories or their confessions or whatever, and I was like, oh my god, like this makes
Mm-hmm.
so much sense. It's nuts.
So when I first started dating this guy in 2009, we didn't have like YouTube wasn't what it became
Mm-hmm.
in like 2015 or
Yeah.
whatever. And we certainly didn't have TikTok. So I was just researching all kinds of articles and blogs and stuff like that because his ex was harassing me. Like on social media, she would come and sit outside my house. Like weird stuff like tried to contact my workplace and like just a bunch of stuff. They almost had to. I worked for a school district, and they said either you call the police or we're going to. And if we
Right.
do, we're going to get a restraining order on her against And I didn't want that to happen to his kids. Of course, you have to ask yourself why he wasn't taking care of this, right? Why he wasn't. Um, as it turned out, he had been sleeping with her while we were first dating and triangulating us, and I didn't know anything about it. So I thought she was crazy because she was acting crazy,
Yeah.
like emailing my boss and posting weird stuff on Facebook about me and following me around and commenting on posts. Because back then on Facebook you could see where people were
Yeah.
commenting on other people's stuff, and it was wild. And so I started researching all this stuff, and this is when I started to be aware of just how bad my own parents were, actually. But I remember one time saying to him, based on everything that you're telling me and that she did to you, and based on what she's doing to me, she's a narcissist. And that's really bad. And that's really bad for your kids. And he blew up at me
Wow.
because everything that he told me she was doing to him, he actually had done. And
Yeah.
so I actually figured
You
it
were
out
calling him out
very.
accidentally.
Yeah, and I wish I had known that one piece of information back then. It would have
Yeah.
totally changed. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's why, like, um, I think even after you leave one or leave a relationship like this, it's so important to learn about it because, we can kind of almost just get wrapped up in like, oh, this was just like a bad relationship. Like, it's so much deeper than that. And
No, yeah.
learning about the cycles of it, it really prevents you from getting into another one, because there was a person that I saw. I literally was on one date with him, and I was like, "Oh, nope," because it was all right there in front of me. But if I hadn't, like, I can guarantee you, if that date had happened like 3 months prior to that, like, I would have fallen right into the very, very next trap, because I was able to draw on everything that I was learning, and I was able to catch it like that. And that it's so important to just really actually learn about this, for your own healing, but also to
Hmm.
really prevent this from happening again.
So the first two dudes that I like got interested in, one was just over the phone. It was not that big of a deal, but I picked up on it because all of a sudden he like raged out because I said that Trump was a sociopath.
Oh.
So I was like, well, that was a good vetting right there. So I just blocked him. And then I went on one date with this other guy, and he became like obsessively started texting me and the whole of the thing they do on Facebook and all this stuff.
Yeah.
When I like texting me at 3 in the morning, he's like, it happened to be a cousin of a friend of mine. And I told my friend, and he was like, oh my God, do not date my cousin. I'm like, oh, I'm not. And I saw it right away, like you said. But what I decided was I needed to wait. I still needed more time on my own to just like date myself, be my own best friend, do all the little bits of self care we're talking about, enjoy my new home, hang out with my dog, focus on my clients, all that kind of stuff. And then I met Greg through people you may know on Facebook, as it turns out.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I thought he friended me, but he says it was me because the people you may know looks really similar to friend
Like the friend
request.
request. Yeah, it does.
Best little social media mistake I ever made, I tell you what.
That's awesome. I love that.
So wait, people are talking about being in dating sites. If you go into a dating site, the ex-narc or sociopath will send friends in, or are you guys saying friends or fake accounts to?
I've heard of this. So I've actually, I don't know if this is what they're talking about, but like the narcissist can try. I've heard of people like triangulating through dating apps, but the other thing that they do that's really common is they make fake accounts, and
Mm-hmm.
so they'll find you on those. Which I mean, that's pretty common that they do that. But yeah, I've actually heard of that, where like they'll just like if their friend already has like the dating app or whatnot, like they'll just use them, or like, oh, just see if they're on, or whatnot, and then kind of using them in a triangulation way through dating apps. I've had a
That's
couple people in
crazy.
my one-on-one calls tell me about that. So yeah,
I mean, imagine if these people would just freaking go to therapy, right?
or just imagine
Like,
if they just like got a life. Like, I mean, oh
yeah,
my god, like you have that much time on your hands. I wish I had that much free time that I could sit there and talk to you for hours on days and use other people to do like free time. That would be great.
but like even like the trolls, imagine if they would do spend that same amount of time working on themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yes.
how much it's just it blows my mind how these people will, spend all this time, but of course I know it's a disorder,
Well,
right? Like
yeah.
I know that. But like when you think about it, just thinking like all that time that like the one I was with spent going to all these different therapists, he was diagnosed, right?
Yeah.
So then he went to subsequent like another three, four, I don't even know how many therapists. And after like 3 months with every therapist, something was wrong with this therapist suddenly, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I'm like, are you getting diagnosed again? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
close to one? Or are they
Yeah.
calling you out? Like all that time, what if they actually did the therapy and did the work?
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's pathetic, you
Yeah.
know?
It's funny you made a comment about the amount of time that like trolls using if they would just do it working on themselves. That's actually the mindset that I had to have to get over the ruminating cycle, because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here having all this free time to think about him and think about our relationship and what went on and blah blah. That means I have some time on my hands, so I need to shift and use this time instead of worrying about all of this stuff. Like, I need to shift that focus, because if I've got time to worry about all of that, then I have time to put back in myself. And that was actually
Sorry.
cool. No, you're totally fine.
He's
You
being
apologize.
need he's being needy.
I'm surprised my cat hasn't made a scene. My cat wants nothing to do with me until I'm either sitting down taking an exam, which is gone through webcam, or I go on live or something. That's when he finally wants attention.
They're like
But
kids.
the last live I did, he like walked behind the couch and like made an appearance. It was so sad.
So, Ro, yours went through 8 therapists.
Good lord, that's insane.
They need like a database that all the therapists can just tap into and be like,
I mean, hospital systems have that for like frequent flyers in the ER. I think therapists should
mm-hmm.
do that for something like that too, personally.
You're
Or at least
over
that's
it.
the hospital system. But
So you're over it and want to move on. Um, over the dating sites or over the relationship? Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think Cappy, you might be new to my community, maybe. Are we following each other? We're friends. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I haven't seen your name in a while. This is Trey. This is funny in the dark humor way that things are funny in this community. Her ex, who tried to murder me, which is terrifying, and is now in prison, told the judge that she has a pattern of putting people in prison.
wow, wow.
That is something else.
Yeah, I don't even have much to say to that. That's crazy.
We're just glad that you're okay in here, but yeah, I mean,
Good.
just like, can you just imagine being the judge too? Like, if they're like a decent person being like, excuse me,
God.
good for you for fighting it and getting him in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question I want to ask. I don't even know how many people are in here because I can't see because I put this little ring light on. But how many, shoot, it just went out of my head. Damn it. Oh, how many of you think that in the cases where you have a PPO or you feel so scared that you have to go to a domestic violence shelter, why
Mm-hmm.
aren't the abusers being shipped off to the frickin' shelters?
Thank you. Oh
Like,
my God. And
like I
oh my
make
God.
it's
I
infuriating to me. I don't get it. Like in my case, I got an ex parte PPO. Like the evidence I presented was so bad that she just gave it to me without a trial. If why wasn't he? Why don't the DAs then prosecute these people? Why aren't they removed from the home? Like, why are the victims and their kids, if there are kids involved, why do they have to leave? It just seems so backwards to me.
yeah. I mean, I get the concept, like for them, like just to get out of that environment, but like, why do they have to stay? Like what you're saying, like why does that end up being like a longer term thing, and then they end
Mm-hmm.
up like being put in these like crappy ass apartments and like all this kind of stuff while the person that was abusing them is still like in their actual home. Like I feel like it's like you said, if they have to go to the shelter first to get everything reported, and then okay, we're gonna get him out, y'all go back in, and
Yeah.
it's just like yeah, I mean, and it's kind of the same. We've talked about like stuff with like CPS and stuff. I've talked about it with Lisa before, and it's just kind of one of like with CPS. It's I've had friends that were accused for having like being abusive and they were not like at all, and they got like a record for it even though it was dropped, but it's still showing on their record. It's a whole crazy thing. And it's just like one of those things like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, like
Mm-hmm.
the one time that you don't really like pursue something that you think is a problem is actually a problem, and then you pursue things that aren't, and there's not an issue there. Like it's just that's the like that's why I could never be a social worker. Like
Mm.
I would absolutely like hate my life because I'd be so frustrated all the time. Like I don't know, I give such props to social workers. A, they don't make nearly enough money, and B, the stuff they have to deal with is just insane.
I couldn't even admit. I mean, as a former teacher, I know some of what that's like, just a tiny
Yeah.
bit, and I know a lot of social workers. It is just they should be making everybody in the teaching and social work, all of those, everybody in those fields should be like our top paid professionals.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I'm just giving you a heads up. I have to hop off like right at 6:30 because I have another appointment that I'm doing. So I'm
No,
kind of
that's fine.
okay.
That's totally fine. How much more time? 4 minutes?
Like 4 minutes.
It always goes so fast, I
It really does.
swear.
I'm like, oh, an hour. That's plenty of time. And then it's like, I feel like I'm just getting started.
Well, I'm
Every day.
gonna try. I think maybe you know how Carrie put in like a calendar or something. It would be
Yeah.
maybe
No,
we
we
can.
should do that.
Yeah, we should try to do that for all of us.
Yeah,
Maybe make a.
I agree. I totally agree. My
I'm so
problem is my
sorry.
schedule's so different week to week. It's hard to like plan out lives.
Yeah, I hear that. I know. I haven't been on live in a month, I think. I don't even
Yeah, I haven't
remember.
been on live since before the webinar. So it's
So
been a while.
do you have anything coming up that you want anybody to know before you say goodbye?
Actually, yes. So if y'all don't know, her handle is Lovely Lady Love. Her name's Kelly. She does a monthly support group for narcissistic abuse survivors, and I'm actually going to be the guest speaker on the one for this month. It's March 20th, I think. Yeah, March 20th. And her support group is so great because it's different from the webinar where it's like not necessarily like us like talking or whatnot and Q&As. It's really a true blue support group. Like everybody goes
Mm-hmm.
around, says like shares a little bit of their experience, how long they've been out, like this kind of thing, and you really get to hear from other survivors, which I think is very vital to the healing because it helps remove that isolated feeling that we have so often after this.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then there's like 30 minutes where like I just kind of share a little bit about like my story and can ask and answer questions and all that stuff too. But to register for her support group, and again, she does it every month. It's in my link tree right now. So if you go to my bio, you click the link tree that's in the bio, and I think it's one of the first ones, and that takes you straight to her website to get registered for that.
Yeah, thank you for I knew you had something, I just couldn't remember what it was. I was the guest speaker last month for that. And it really is, and people were like eating, like it's really
It's super chill.
casual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just really nice, and everybody was able to have an opportunity to talk and discuss and connect and ask questions, like Trey said. I felt like that was the first time I was in it, so But I felt like even those of us who are her friends and fellow coaches everybody gets something out of it.
You really do.
So yeah.
So definitely check it out, even if it's not this month. Just keep it in mind. She's got it on her website. Like I said, she does it every single month. So there, I love. I wish there was more things like that because I mean, it's. I mean, that's what there's support groups for a lot of other things like domestic violence and all that kind of stuff. But this one's specifically curtailed to narcissistic abuse. So it's really really special. So
And
definitely,
really empowering people at whatever stage they're at. Like the people who aren't out yet are getting a ton of support, and the people who
yeah,
are as well,
yeah, for sure. So, well, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off because if I don't, I will go over my time. So
Okay.
I just know myself. But we'll do another live soon when I have more time for sure. But I'm glad we at least got to do it a little bit today.
Me too. Yeah, me too. And it's always nice to see you, and I love you. So thank you so much
Love
for
you too.
asking me.
Absolutely. Well, y'all
All
have a
right.
good rest of your evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.